I think, Tanya, are you still having issues? No, I think I found it. Okay, cool. And you got it, Alicia. All right. So I'm assuming that everyone has their spreadsheet now. We need to now, let's say you wanted to download this data and put it into a Google form or a spreadsheet formula. You can go to download, and there's different things you can download it as. Today we're going to do CSV. So if I just do CSV, on a Mac, it just asks you where do you want to open it from. So I can open it up in numbers. And I just go through numbers, and then voila, I have it in my Apple spreadsheet. I don't have Excel on my computer, but I could have had it open up in Excel. You can also download it as CSV to a file. And this will save it in the downloads directory. So if I go to Finder, it's right here. I've done this a few times. That's why I added a 1. And then on Google Form, in Google Spreadsheet, I can go to File, Import, import this file in, and it will go into Google. So you can use whatever spreadsheet program you like to analyze this data. What we're going to do is, in this class, is we're going to upload the CSV file into your Qoom space so that you can use code to create these plots. So to do that, I want everyone to, again, download their CSV, save file, and then go to your Explorer page. I'm going to go into my survey folder. And I'm going to do this file upload. And I'm going to downloads. And then I'm going to upload my CSV file. So I'm going to rename this as, you don't have to rename it, but I'm going to put survey sample. Why isn't my thing not working? Keyboard stopped working. Lovely. My keyboard stopped working, guys, so I'll just open that up. Okay. All right, now I have my CSV file inside of Qoom, so I can write code to make those plots. Yeah, GA said you also can drag and drop, so feel free to do that. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that while I figure out why my keyboard's not working. Okay, it's working now. That was weird. Okay. And if I go to click on it, it will open up the data in a text editor, and you can see see what a CSV file looks like. Yeah, you download it correctly. Yep, you go here and download it as CSV. So we're going to download it and then upload it again. And the reason why I'm showing you this is so that, let's say you collected data on a Google form and you wanted to use Qoom to create plots with that data, is what I'm about to show you. You would download it as CSV from the Google spreadsheet app, and then upload it to Qoom. So while you do that, the other thing I wanted to show you with the spreadsheet is I just wanted to show you that when you send data to a server, that server can collect information about you that you didn't send it. So it knows your IP address. The server will know what browser you're using, what kind of operating system you're on. The server will the browser will send the server all this information. So this is how companies can track you and track information about you that you didn't send, is because your browser is sending this information to those servers when you send it data. So just want to visualize that and let you guys know. Yeah, collecting IP addresses lets you know where you are. With your IP address, you can map that into what your address is. So in theory, I could go in here, look at your IP address, and know where your neighborhood is. I wouldn't know where you lived, but I would know what neighborhood you're in. So this is why you have to be careful when you're sending data to servers, that you're sending this data to servers you trust. So that's why I'm exposing this to you, so you guys can see that, and you know, just be cautious. That's all. But from a company perspective, it's great data, so they know where you are, so they know where the customers are, so they can better market their product. So for them, it's good, but for you, maybe not so much. All right, I'll give you guys maybe 30 more seconds. Anyone else having issues with the downloading and then uploading? All right, you're done? All right. Kanya, you're done? Awesome. All right, I guess we can get started then. So our next step in our notes, where are my notes? I think I lost my notes. Let me get back to them. We now need to convert our data in a way that our code can understand. So we have the CSV data, which looks like this, which each line of text is basically one row in our spreadsheet. And then each column is separated by a comma. Now, this isn't very useful when we plot it, because when we plot it, we need to do things like when we make a plot like this, we need to count the number of blues versus the number of greens and the number of reds to create a pie chart, for example. Or if we want to look at male and female, we will need to count the number of males and females and others. So we need a way to count the information. In our spreadsheet, we can kind of do this with not that many rows. We can go in here and look at, oh, I have maybe one, I can sort by color. I can see, oh, I have 3 reds, I have 3 purples, and 3 greens. So I can kind of look at it. But with our code, we can actually do it mathematically using JavaScript. So we could have the program count for us. And then once we're done counting it, we can then make those plots based on the counts. So the fancy term for this is aggregation. We're aggregating the data. And that's where I'm hoping to start teaching you, giving you a flavor of how you do that in code next. So our data is not in a friendly format that we can easily code the operation of that counting. So let's create a new page to do this operation where we will count everything and then we will plot those counts. So I'm going to create a new file. Call it dashboard.html. Okay. All right, so if everyone can create their dashboard.html, and we're not going to really create anything in the HTML. We're really going to do everything in JavaScript right now. So it's going to be a little different than the other pages. So we're actually going to start with JavaScript. So just create a script here, type equals to module. And what type equals module does is it will allow you to load the whole page and then run the code inside the script. It also will, there's also some other benefits, but first of all, let's just create a script tag with type module. And we're going to create a function called, like, I don't know, create plots, where in our function, we're going to write code in here to fetch that data from the CSV file, convert it to a format called JSON. Then we can easily count up everything, and then we can display everything in a nice plot. Okay. So as soon as we load create plots, we should run create plots so that when the page loads, it immediately runs our function. All right, I'll stop there and give you guys a chance to catch up. And again, this code is in the notes, so if you need to, you can always just copy and paste from the notes. All right, so we've created our function. So the first thing we need to do is go fetch our data. So I'm going to create a constant variable, a variable that once it has its data, it's not going to change. We call it the response, RESP. And I'm going to write this code. So I'm going to go fetch it from survey/sample1.csv. So I'm basically going to put in the path to this sample1 CSV. So you can also just like right click, copy link location here on view, and paste that in here too, or you just type it out. So if I paste it, it gives me the full path, but you don't need the domain name. This await here means to go fetch it and then wait for the server to come back with all the data and then put it into this variable. So in order to use this await, I need to type async here. So this function now is an async function. Okay. And then I need to create another constant to hold the data. So I'll put CSV is equal to await response.text. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is console log CSV. And just follow me along before you type it. If I'm going too fast, I'll give you enough pause to write it. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the response. Then I need to parse that response into some text. So some string that I can store in the value. So I'm just going to console log that as CSV. I can go over here to inspect, where I can open up this console so I can see the log. So you can see right here is all the CSV data right here. So if I console log something here again, like here I am, when it's done saving, it will say, you know, here I am with the text there. And I can use this garbage can to clear it out. So try this, see if you get the console up and running. I'll stop here. The idea of having the console here is so that you can visualize what's in these variables, so that when we write our JavaScript code, you'll understand better what we're doing. It won't be like so much all in your head, which is really hard to manage. So. All right, so I'll give you guys 5 minutes, and please ask questions. And you can even share your screen, and I'll walk you through the process again if you need me to repeat what I just said. Yes, create plots is just the name we give our function. So it just helps us understand what the function we're creating is going to do. Okay. Just text me in the chat. Let me know when you have it. I'm going to open up my window because it's getting hot in my room. In line 7, do I need to put a semicolon or a comma? You mean at the end? You can put a semicolon here if you want. It's not needed, but you can put it there. And if you want to copy the code I just created, there's my code. And if you need to, just replace whatever in the fetch function with the path to your CSV file that you uploaded. All right, did anyone get that? I feel like no one got that. Ready to continue? Okay, same. All right, let's continue then. Thank you. All right, so now we have our CSV file. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna convert this data into JSON, which is a file, which is a data format that code can understand as well as human beings. So it's a really human readable data format as well as a computer readable data format. Where CSV is more computer readable, but it's really hard for humans to read it, and it's very hard for us to transform that data. So JSON makes it easy for us to transform the data. CSV is really designed for spreadsheet programs to load the data into their program. Okay. So to convert it to JSON, it's quite a challenge. So we're going to ignore that challenge so we can move on to the plots. So in the notes, I have an extra script tag up here. The script tag right here. And what this will do is it's going to load some JavaScript code that we can use. It's going to load this variable called papa we can use to parse the CSV data into a JSON. So let's just copy and paste that from the notes. Put that here in the head. And again, if you don't have the notes or you want to copy and paste from my notes, I have the link there. Yep, papa. Yeah, I don't know why they have papa. And that will allow us now to create a constant JSON equals to papa.parse CSV. And our CSV, the first line has the headers. So I'm going to put headers true here to tell it to use that first row of CSV. So that first row, as you can see right here, is just the names of all the columns. So then when I console log JSON here, it now will output the CSV as well as this object that the browser understands. So that's why it's all blue. It's an object that now it looks like code I can dig into. I can see that there's a bunch of data here. I have 15 rows of data, and each row has information in it. I think I put headers true. I think this should be header true. So the data doesn't look exactly like I want it. So let's try this one here. Okay. Yeah, now it knows it puts this into an object format. So my first row in my spreadsheet, the age is 15, birthday is October 5th, the gender is nothing, class is 1, 2, 3, 4, and such. If I look at row 13, I have this data. So each of these numbers here represents a row in my spreadsheet. Sorry. Alicia, okay, can you please repeat how you got the source code, or do we just use the same one you did? So you can just use the same one I did. How I got this code was in the notes down here I went to this website here, Papa Parse, the GitHub page, and I went there, and that's how I got the information to do what I'm teaching you guys, and all the information on how to use it. And then all I'm doing here now is teaching you how to use Papa. So you just put in the string of CSV values, and here you just tell it to use the first row as the header so it knows what each row contains. Oh, does that make sense, Alicia? Did I answer your question? Yep, okay. And TT asked, what's the difference between typing constant and using the comma like the notes? Oh, they're the same. The comma allows you just to list out all your variables as constant. Well, here I'm just going to define each one as a constant. So there's no difference. It's the same. So it's like really the difference is if this was English, this is like I'm putting things in 3 sentences, because the semicolon is the way to end a sentence in coding, where the comma allows me to put these 3 sentences into a run-on sentence that's 1 sentence long. So grammatically, that's what's different. Do I want to put one long sentence, or do I want to cut it up into smaller sentences? Okay. All right, so now that I have my JSON format, I don't need to really look at CSV in here anymore, so I'm going to delete that. What I want to do next now is to create a plot. So I'm going to go to the notes and down here to the Plotly library. So I'm just going to click this link here. And we're going to explore Plotly together. So I'm going to give you, actually the link in here is documentation here. So plotly.javascript. I'm going to actually give you this link here. And the reason why I'm doing this step is so I can kind of show you where you can go and explore more advanced topics. So as you can see, there's some really cool looking plots in here you can generate with this. And each plot can tell a story that you're trying to say. So if you're trying to talk about earthquakes, maybe you need a plot around the ring of fire. So this would be really cool. This would be a really cool plot if you're plotting air travel. So it really depends on what you're plotting. But we're going to start with basic charts so that you can understand kind of what this documentation works. So then later on you can try on your own and experiment with different plots and ask me questions or ask EA questions, and we can help you make better looking plots for your homework. So let's start with a pie chart. So I'm going to click in pie chart. And it gives me a sample. So, you know, I can try it on CodePen, but, you know, we're using Qoom. So let's just try it on Qoom, copy everything in here. And I'm going to paste it here. Just paste it in my function. So I'm going to create my first plot. Let's see what happens. Well, it gives me an error. It says Plotly is not defined. Well, that's because I forgot to add the script tag to load Plotly. So here's the script tag to load Papa, but we need to load this guy as well. So in the notes, I think we'll go back a couple again. In the notes, I have the library to Plotly. That is right here, this script tag right here. So I'll put that in here so you guys can copy that, as well as here. So it doesn't matter what order, as long as I put it above this script tag. So we'll load the Plotly code and then create this variable. Now I have an error saying, oh, my div doesn't exist. No element with that div. So I better create an element with that. So inside my body, I'm going to create a div ID, my div, and voila, I have a plot. So understanding this, what it's saying is, here's a div, put in a pie chart using this data and then this layout. So this is pretty self-explanatory. If I want to make my plot really small, I can change that to some small numbers like 50 and have a little tiny plot if I want. So now I have itsy bitsy tiny plot, or I can make it big. So you can kind of see, like, you can just change these numbers to change how the plot is laid out. Okay. These labels is basically what you see on in the legend. So if I don't want residential here, I want pizza, I can change that and put like pizza stores maybe. And that will change this to pizza stores. And it looks like 19 here. See, that's green, goes with 19%. So let's say I want to increase the number of pizza stores. I want to put 58 here. Then Plotly will will actually do the calculation and say, oh, you have 58 here, then pizza stores is now blue, and 41.7% of all the stores is pizza stores. So Plotly does the math for you. So you don't have to put the exact percent in here like I have in the notes. You can actually just put in the count. Something. So let's say now I want to create a pie chart with using the numbers in my spreadsheet, not these numbers. So the numbers that are in this JSON. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a function, like say create pie chart. Okay. So then I can take in an ID, just like this here. I can take in the what did I put in my notes? Sorry, my mind is blank. Oh yeah, I can put in in my notes in here, in my data here, I have 14 things. So let's say I wanted to have, like, let's look at number 6 here. Color here. I can put in, I want color there. So I would put in color. Let me look at my notes again. Sorry. I see. I put raw data, ID, and column. That's how I did it in notes. I want to make it sure it's the same. So I want to put some raw data here. So the data that I get from the JSON. The ID. So I put in color here. So I'm going to change this to color. And the property here that I want to look at. So this is like the column header in my spreadsheet. So that's uppercase. Okay. I'm going to create this function. And I'm going to move all this into this function. So again, you can just copy it from the notes. And then I'm going to call this function using the data from the JSON. So JSON.data. So all my data is in this data property. And if you had more time, I would explain better what all these things are. We just have a couple hours. So I'm trying to really kind of give you a flavor of what we're doing so that when you try this on your own, you won't be so lost. And then I'm going to use this color here. I'm going to change this to the ID. So this is ID. And I'm going to change this to column. So I'm going to put these in variables. I feel like so my color is my ID. And my column is color. Okay, I know that was confusing. I apologize. But I'm trying to get this like the notes. Okay, so now my ID is color. And the column is this. It's still saying my ID doesn't exist because I want to replace this with my ID. And then here my plot appears up again. Okay. So now I have a function that I can use to make pie charts with any of the data I have here. I just need to transform now this data into these values and labels. So these next step is to get these values and labels from this JSON. Okay, I'll pause there for a second, let you guys digest that. Any questions? I feel like I did that very confusing. So if you're confused, I think it's my fault. All right, how are you guys doing? Do you want me to continue? Okay, sure. All right. Now that I have everything the same as the notes, we can work to convert this raw data into this format. So I'm going to use console log again as my friend. So let's start with raw data. Let's see what raw data is. So I'm just going to go over here, clear that. And here's my raw data. It's just this array. It's basically my spreadsheet. That's basically what it is. All right. So this is my spreadsheet data. The first thing is I only want to look at the color data. I don't want to look at any of this age, the CPU, the engine. I don't care about that stuff. I just care about color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another variable called parse data. So I'm going to parse this data into a format that I want. So I'm going to put raw data, and I'm going to map. I'm going to just map allows me to take data from an array and put it into another array. The way it works is it takes the first row. So this is one of my rows in my spreadsheet, and say from that row, all I want is row bracket column. So basically just the column I want. So this column is colored. So if I console log parse data now, yeah, I can explain. So I'll show you with the data what it means. So what I just did is, here's my raw data up here in here. So parsing means just to take out what you want and put it in the way you want it. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking all this data here, and all am I doing is I just want this color. So down here you can see I have 14 rows, but all I have is the color information, green. Does that make sense? So let's say I want to parse out gender. Instead of color here, I can now put gender here. Then this will just take out the gender data. And then voila, I have all the gender data.
Oh, okay. So that makes more sense. So parsing is basically like taking what you want and like putting it where you want?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
another term for this in AI or data science, if you guys are interested in data science, this is called a feature extraction, where we're just extracting the things that are interesting to us or interesting to the AI. So both Python, if you do Python a lot, Python's used in data science a lot. It's very similar to what I'm showing you right here. Doing this in Python and JavaScript is very similar.
Oh, okay. So, okay, that makes sense. So then you were able to take out color and gender because they were originally questions. They have labels on them, or
Yeah, exactly. They were basically
okay.
the name field that we put in our survey. So if you look at our survey HTML, we had color here.
Oh, okay. What if we wanted to do like a longer question? So for instance, like, do you like carrots? Like, do we type in the whole question?
No, no, it's probably best just to have a short name, because if you have
Uh,
a long name, you could put "Do you like carrots" here. It's just then the your column, when you look at your spreadsheet, you would have a big, all that text would
oh,
stretch your
oh,
column here. Does
I
that make
see.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much.
Yep, yep. Okay. And what I'm showing you is uh, really new to you guys. Now, if you know AI, you know Python, there's a special spreadsheet variable called pandas that makes what I'm showing you a lot easier to do in Python. Um, so that's one of the reasons why AI uses Python, because it has all these tools that makes what I'm showing you easier. But JavaScript is not that hard. And if you understand what I'm doing here in JavaScript, you would understand the Python stuff very well. So just let you know, there's other tools out there and other languages out there to do this better, but JavaScript is the language of the web, so we're stuck with JavaScript. Just another way to think of it. Um, okay. All right, so now that we have our green, blue, indigo, blue, red, red, or if I did gender, empty, 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 male, female, female. So I'm going to switch this to gender actually, so that I can show you the next thing. And this is something I didn't show in the notes, I meant to put in the notes, is there's this idea of missing data. Do you see how I have like empty string here? I don't have data there. Let's say I wanted to extract that missing data. I can do this filter, and I can do row, and I can say a row does not equal to empty string. And to let you see this better, I'm going to just put this on another line. So each of these dot operations, you can just put on another line. And now what you can see is the filter reduced my array from 14 things to 9 things. And now my parsed data only has non-empty answers. Okay. So that's filter. So filter is to clean up your data. And then finally, what we need to do is put this data in a way that we can count it easier. So that's our third operation. And this one is really hard to understand. It took me a long time to wrap my head around it. So if you just try to understand that this exists and maybe what it's trying to do, and that's good enough. You just need to be exposed to it several times. So this is the first time I think any of you seen this, but what we want to do is convert this array into what's called a dictionary, so that we can count the number of things that how many males there are. So really what we want to do is say male 2, female 8, neutral 1. We want to convert the data to look like that. So that's what this dot reduce will allow us to do. It will allow us to transform the data into completely something else. So reduce takes 2 things here. The thing we want, we're going to convert it into an object, and the row. Okay. In the notes, I just put O, but here I'm just going to put an object. So I'm going to put it like an empty object or an empty dictionary if you're familiar with Python. And I'm basically going to say object bracket row is going to equal to whatever object bracket row was before, if I've seen it before, or if I've never seen it before, I'll put 0. And then I can just add 1 to it. Plus, I can put plus plus, that adds 1 to it. So if I've never seen it before, object row would be 0. And then I'm going to add 1 to it. If I've seen it before, then object row would be that number. Let's say 1. What was the sum before. And I'm going to add 1 again because I'm seeing it again. And then just return the object. Okay. All right, we're getting close to 6. I see. And then just bear with me a couple more minutes. We're almost done. Now I have something that I can count. Female 6, male 2, neutral 1. Okay. So now I'm ready to create these values and labels. So let's just do that really quick. I don't want to hold you guys too much. So I'm going to create values. I'm going to put that as an empty array and labels as an empty array. Now I need to go through each of these rows again. So I'm going to have my object here. Object.keys, object. This will allow me to create an array of just female, male, and neutral. And I'm going to loop through just these keys, the things in blue here, female, male, neutral. So that's my key or my label. And then I can just add that label to my labels by pushing it. And the same thing with my values. But this time, the value is the thing in green. And to get the thing in green, I just need to use object bracket label. And that will go find the thing that's in green for me. Okay. Now I can just replace this with the values that I parsed out. Values and labels. Okay. I'm sorry, this is parse data, not object. That's right, I'm sorry, object is just this internal thing I created. Okay, now I have my pie chart with each gender. So in the notes, I go into how to create a bar chart and such. So I think I'll end it here. And I think, Kie, do you want to talk about the challenge really quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so can you open the challenge file?
Sure.
Yeah. So we have 2 tracks of Qoom of the Week challenge as we did before. So for open challenge, the project requirement is make your own survey. So we covered for the first hours. And for Qoom challenge, the project requirement is create a dashboard to visualize data. You can create your own survey to collect data, or you can just use any other data set to visualize using that Plotly, which Jared just covered. So the deadline is next week, Wednesday next week, 4 p.m. PDT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we have a Q&A session. If you want to go in more detail about what we did. I know this was somewhat more challenging than the last workshop we did. Next week is going to be Instagram filters, which is going to be a lot easier than this. but I wanted to teach people who are interested in how to do something a little harder and more powerful, and something you could try to do on your own homework, so that you could actually not have to study coding as a separate activity, but integrate coding into your other activities that you're doing. And yeah.
So the Q&A session is this Saturday, 2 p.m. PDT. So I think that's a 5 p.m. EDT in East Coast.
So we really encourage you to join, and encourage you to try to integrate coding into your other activities so that it becomes something natural to you guys, and you guys can reap the benefits of it. Okay. All right. We'll end it here. Thank you again for joining. Thank you again for, kind of bearing through the hard part, but you guys did really well today. So I'm really proud of you all.
Oh, one last question.
Sure.
Will the video recordings be emailed to us?
Yeah, the video recordings will be part of the Qoom of the Week form. So you should be able to access them from from the web page. You can also access them from that link I gave you, I think at the beginning of class. But I think, PA, you're gonna email out the videos to everyone? Let me show you what I'm talking about. So there's Qoom of the Week tab here. We have a link here for the workshop and challenges. There should be a video inside of these that you can access from your page when it's ready. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye.